You know, the plan was so simple, right? I would attend Munich High-End 2024 without a video camera. I'd interview Stephen Wilson, and then I'd publish that video as shot by the show's own video team, and then I'd move on. No show report, no Instagram clips, no nothing. But Munich High-End is the world's largest hi-fi show. So it runs 4 days, it pulls in I think around 23,000 visitors, and also it gets, I think, around 500 exhibitors. So I couldn't not shoot a handful of video clips. And just like last year, I took a smartphone with me, but this time it was a Sony Xperia 1 Mark V, because what would be the harm in that? But hang on a second, what about the DJI Osmo Pocket 3 that I got for Christmas? Perhaps I could use that to shoot talking head videos that would serve as note takers, right? So they would be ready for me to watch again once the show had wrapped, so I didn't miss any important details, because memory fades and video footage does not. However, by the time I got back to Berlin, I had amassed 500 clips of video, 100 from the DJI and I think 400 from the Sony. So I've spent the last few days turning those clips into a long form video, a show report if you like. So what follows is Munich High-End 2024 as I saw and heard it. No more, no less. My first port of call was WiiM, or WiiM. I get told off for saying it wrong. Anyway, they were introducing a souped up version of their amp. It's called the Amp Pro and it sells for $369 US. But I was more interested in WiiM's new touchscreen streaming DAC called the Ultra, which will sell for $329 US. Now, what the following manufacturer intro doesn't tell us is that the Ultra, it isn't like more costly touch screen based streaming DACs in that it doesn't run Android to host streaming apps like Apple Music. But the Ultra does feature room correction. I did ask them about this and apparently it's not too dissimilar to how Bookart does it with an iPhone. So it's iPhone only.
I'm going to introduce you the new WiiM Ultra. The WiiM Ultra is our new display streamer. It's based on a new chipset from ourselves. It supports Wi-Fi 6 and Bluetooth 5.3. It has a new phono stage for the preamplifier. It has sub out, HDMI in, and a touchscreen display. DAC is the ESS DAC, so one of the top DACs from ESS, and it's retailing at €400 approximately.
Also working the touchscreen streaming DAC space is Shanling, whose SM1.3 was quite a bit bigger than the early press shots would have had us believe. But at $1,100, it lands firmly into Eversolo territory, and with an AKM DAC circuit and with an Android OS that will accommodate streaming apps like Apple Music. But unlike the Eversolo, the Shanling has a headphone output.
Hello, I'm Frankie from Shanling.Audio. We are here at the High-End Munich and we are showing off our new streaming device. It is start of our brand new line. We have been making streamers for past 4 or 5 years, and this year we are launching a new system. It is modernized, faster, more custom friendly, and it is coming in our SM1.3. You can see that it's based on a similar design as our SCD 1.3 SACD player, and it is using the similar shell. It is using the same flagship AKM 4499EX DAC. We have built-in headphone amplifier. We have all the features, all the Bluetooth connectivity, Wi-Fi connectivity, USB drives. We're working on the certifications for Tidal Connect, Roon Ready, that's coming in the future. It is running custom version of Android.
Can I run Apple Music on it?
Apple Music, yes. Spotify, Deezer, Amazon Music. We are also planning to add more streaming services in the future. We also want to put in some internet radio apps. Pretty much as it's developed in-house, we can add in the more apps as time goes. We will be coming out in June. Model will be priced around 1,100 euros.
Now for something completely different, because I caught up with IAG's Peter Como before the show opened on Saturday morning, and it's why this next segment has very little background noise, because if you saw my report last year, you'll know that the Munich High-End show is extremely noisy. Now, Como was introducing two new products from Wharfedale that aren't speakers, but they are speaker kits. So you can build your own loudspeakers. Now, pricing on these remains to be decided, but I thought I'd speak to Peter Como anyway, because he's brilliant on camera. Okay then, Peter, you've got something very unusual for the modern day speaker enthusiast, right?
Well, we have, and I'm going back now to my teenage years, well, slightly later than teenage years. I mean, I was an impoverished student, put it like that. And so I was trying to put together a hi-fi system on a budget. And one of the things that I thought of doing was building my own loudspeakers. Now, this was before I got into loudspeaker design, so the easiest thing for me to do was to go to an established manufacturer, and Wharfedale had some kits, which they called the Unit 3 and the Unit 5. And the Unit 5 made up into a three-way loudspeaker, which was very similar, for example, to the Dovedale loudspeaker. And that's what I built, and I was absolutely delighted with the performance, and my friends were very envious, and I carried on using those speakers for, well, I think about 8 to 10 years. I mean, they were really lovely. And today, we have the opportunity of giving the home builder the ability to do exactly what I did back in 1971, and that is build your own speakers. So we've done all the hard work. We've made a two-way and a three-way loudspeaker. Both of them are roughly equivalent. I mean, not exactly the same, but they use the same drive units as in the Denton and Linton. And you get all the drive units, you get the crossovers, which have been specially designed for this series, you get the ports and everything you need to put together the loudspeaker in your own cabinet. So all you have to do is provide the woodwork and the internal fibre, and you've got yourself a pair of speakers that you can be extremely proud of. We supply all the templates and the cutting scheme for the cabinet, for the woodwork in the cabinet, and a complete set of instructions that allow you to easily put it together without making any mistakes. And you'll end up with a pair of loudspeakers that I hope that you'll continue using for a long time, and that will amaze you and your friends when you say that you've built them.
In the Chord Electronics room, there were two small things. Firstly, the new Suzy amplifier, which is like a microdose version of John Franks' Ultima amplifier circuit, which I believe in turn is based on the work of Bob Cordell. But the Suzy preamplifier doesn't connect to its host with cables. It docks into a mount on the top of the power amplifier. And yes, the Suzy Pre features a phono stage. So what about streaming? Well, that brings us to the clever part, because instead of the Suzy Pre, we can also dock a Hugo 2 Plus to Go to turn the Suzy power amplifier into a streaming unit, and a very small one at that. And the headphone output on the Hugo 2 is rerouted by the dock to the front of the unit. Now, the second small thing in the Chord Electronics room was Rob Watts. I'm being a bit unkind here, but I saw a photograph of me interviewing Rob Watts, because what follows, you'll see that in a moment. The photo, it just shows me, I'm 2 meters tall. Rob Watts is not 2 meters tall. So if you're wondering why in this video segment, Rob Watts is looking up all the time, well, that's because I tower above him. Now, I spoke to Rob Watts because he is, I guess you'd call him a digital audio expert. He's designed a lot of gear for Chord Electronics. And in Munich this year, he wanted to talk to people about his forthcoming Quartet M scaler, which is designed in the same chassis as the Dave. I believe it's a 2-box solution with the power supply. And interestingly, Watts told me that he's removed the bypass switch in this newer version. I think, I'm guessing here really, I think it's to stop people doing quickfire ABs and for them to listen longer, to do longer form A/B testing.
Yeah, so this is the Quartet M scaler. It's a project that I've been working on for 6 years, and it's a very complex device. As I mentioned earlier, it's got 2,500 discrete components inside it, 2 million lines of code, 5 FPGAs that I use in the Hugo M scaler, so there's 5 of them. The power supply is a 75 amp capacity power supply. We've got our own separate power supply, which I've designed and developed for it. So it's not an off-the-shelf power supply, it's something I've developed specifically for this project. It's got the 10-band lossless EQ, the same structure that we use in Mojo 2. So the benefit of the lossless EQ is you can adjust the sound without the sound quality degrading. Now, the important thing about M scalers is getting transients to be reconstructed correctly. And transients are used by the brain so that we can perceive instruments as being separate entities, locating those instruments in space, the timbre, and the pitch. And with current digital, the big problem with digital is the timing of transients. And when you put the digital signal into an interpolation filter, and every single DAC on the planet has got an interpolation filter, these timing of transients are all wrong. They're shifting backwards and forwards continuously. And this shifting backwards and forwards of the timing of transients confuses the brain. And as a result, your instruments lack separation, you don't get timbre variation, you can't perceive the low frequency pitch, and you can't locate instruments in space. So by working on the transient reconstruction accuracy, we get much better instrument separation and focus. We get the timbre of the instruments coming through much more naturally. The bass pitch is reproduced much better.
Why can't the Dave do that by itself?
Simply because of the amount of processing power. The more processing power that you've got delivers much better sound quality, because you can more accurately reconstruct the timing of transients. So if you wanted to perfectly reconstruct the original timing, you would need an infinite amount of processing. So the more processing that you've got, the better the sound quality. But what's more important than the amount of processing you've got is the algorithm that you use to do that. And the beauty about the WTA algorithm, it's the only algorithm that has been designed and listened to in order to reconstruct transients correctly. If you buy a PC upsampler, for example, you may have more taps, but you're using the wrong algorithm to reconstruct the transient timing information. So what's unique about the WTA algorithm is the amount of effort that's gone into fine-tuning that algorithm. That's something that's taken thousands of listening tests to actually get right. The only way you can do it is by ear. What I actually do is to listen to different aspects, and I've got different test tracks. So you've got a couple of different test tracks for depth. I've got different test tracks for timbre variation. I've got different test tracks for instrument separation, and then you score each individual parameter and then and adjust the sound to optimize that performance. It's been a hell of a time, which is why it's taken 6 years to work on. It's coming out when it's finished.
So you're still working on it.
So it could be a
7-year project.
So it could be a 7-year project.
The entry-level loudspeaker space is getting a shot in the arm from the UK's Acoustics because every member of its new 3000C range will sell for under £1,000, and each one features the company's continuous curved cone technology that's been trickled down from the 5000 series. And in this video segment, Alex Munro explains what that is and what it means for when listening to the loudspeakers.
This year we're introducing the 3000C. Now it's actually the 7th iteration of our introductory range. We started with 1000, went through 1000i, 2000, 2000i, 3000, and we've decided after 3000i to stay with 3000 because it's been very lucky for us. It's been by far our most successful couplet of ranges. And we've called it 3000C because we've trickled down some technology that came from our medium range 5000, which is called the continuous curved cone. So the clues in the C. And we've used C as a suffix to identify them. They're a completely new set of driver designs, and they use the continuous curved cone, which has a number of benefits. When you have a cone design, there are two normally used shapes. One is straight-sided, and that's very good for bass, but doesn't get a very good crossover with the tweeter. And then there's a flared version, which is quite the opposite. It doesn't perform well at the bass, but gives a good crossover with the tweeter. The continuous curved cone has been produced through a number of iterations in order to get precisely the best compromise between these two in order to get the best possible result. So we started first with like taking a tennis ball and cutting it in half, so it's a single radius. Then we put in a second radius, and then we put in multiple radii in order to get this shape here. Now, you may have seen this with other manufacturers where there's no dust cap, it's just a single shape, but that's generally for cosmetic reasons. And we believe we're the only business that's done it for the technical reasons that I've just described. Now, I've not really described the benefit of going down this route, and that is firstly very audible in the bass and the dynamics of the bass. So you don't only get a deeper bass, but you get something that is much more vibrant, it's higher sensitivity, and the crossover works better with the tweeter in order to give you a much wider dispersion. So the range has the models in it that are in display in the window here. You've got a 3050C, 3030C, 3020C, 3010C, and a 3090C, which is the center channel. That's following on the same lineup that we've had in the predecessor range 3000i. The price is 330 up to £900. for the floor standard.
A good number of products being announced at Munich High-End, they aren't finished. So HiFi Rose had 2 versions of its new RD160 DAC on the floor, but one of them had no connectors on the back. Well, it had one, but it was just a USB socket to power the front panel display, and I had to go to the other one to film what will eventually be the socket array on the back panel. So I guess we'd call the first one a showroom dummy. Nevertheless, Lynx Park went deep on the RD160's inner workings in our video interview segment.
As you know, the HiFi Rose's slogan is Beyond Audio, and we strive to surpass the traditional limits in all our products. The RD160, our brand new DAC, follows suit. The first noticeable feature, I would say, is hidden screen. If you turn it off, it's a sleek design, simple like a DAC. But if you turn it on, you can see the flow chart designed like a circuit diagram, and then sound wave, which moves to the music, and then volume curve. These display shows various information intuitively, but also it responds immediately to button and knob, so that offering the feeling like you're controlling an analog device. Thus, RD160 offers the enjoyment of manipulation to the visual satisfaction. So second feature, I would say, will be the, we call it CIM architecture, which stands for completely isolated and moduled, while RD160 modularizes everything possible. It starts from the DAC module. The DAC module is 2-chip solution. One chip is dedicated for digital processing, and the other one is dedicated for digital to analog conversion, which means it is structurally separated. And then the DAC module is independently allocated for both left and right, and the analog circuitry is designed in left and right symmetrical full balanced configuration. Furthermore, the power supply, which is three linear type reference power supply, is customized for one for digital input and the left 2 for left and right analog output circuitry. So thus, in a result, the RD160 delivers extremely high signal-to-noise ratio and dynamic range. For the last, we call it NRA filter, which stands for Noise Reduction Analog Filter. With this filter, the RD160 exhibits super flat frequency response. From the lowest frequency, from 10 Hertz, it begins flat, not from down, without any roll-off, flat. And then in case of high frequency, if you go to 50 kilohertz, it experiences only -1 dB, and in 70 kilohertz, super high frequency, it experiences only -3 dB, which means it is super flat and super wide. And lastly, the OP amp, we use a JFET input dual OP amp, which is from Muses. The thing is, if we have chosen Muses, we couldn't make the sound as we wanted. So from the initial development stages, we have worked together, tuned together with Muses for the sound what we wanted, and that's actually vibrant sound. So ultimately, RD160 provides a lifelike, vibrant sound, together with extremely low distortion and noise floor modulation. We are expecting to launch it in about August worldwide, this year August. It will be, we think, about between $5,000 to $6,000.
Let's talk about headphones, because Focal has extended its Batiste driver platform to create two new models, a wired open back and a closed model, I think, but I couldn't find anyone to talk about them on camera. And then Meze also has a more affordable take on the 109 Pro in the works. The new version will come in closer to the 99 Classics pricing, and it ditches the sculpted wood ear cup. And Antonio Meze told me, I think we're just in passing, just in the hallway, that he's retuned the sound of that newer model for a little more bass kick and a little less treble zing. However, I think the most notable headphone release of the show was a new affordable closed back headphone model from Sennheiser. So the HD620S joins the 600 series, and lead designer Jermo Kernke was on hand to talk about it.
So what we've just launched is the HD620S, which is our newest closed-back headphones, and it's our first series entry to the 600 series with a closed-back one. And what is unique about this headphone is that it has sheer brilliance as a closed-back headphone. So what is very common with closed-back headphones is that they have a sort of muffled sound a little bit, and they're also very closed-in sounding. And to me, those closed-back headphones never sounded fun. So it was not even a good compromise. I'd rather use in-ears. And this is, for me, really the first closed-back headphone that has this kind of brilliance that makes music listening fun to me. And I think it's a great, let's say, it's a great alternative to the other 600 series headphones, because it retains a lot of the balance, it retains a lot of the natural timbre, and it retains this brilliance I just talked about, but it also adds great punchy bass, which it gets from being a closed-back headphone. So in total, it's not just compromising on the 600 series if you don't want to disturb others. I think it's a really valid choice on its own, and I'm really excited for people to try it out. It's a 38mm diaphragm, and we have a 150 ohm impedance coil, so it's from the 660S, the old one, and the diaphragm is adopted from the 660S2 for the better bass impact. So what we did is that we knew from the beginning of the project, of course, we wanted to build a closed-back headphone, and we looked at the chassis of the 600 and the 500 and saw that this is just a much better fit. So it is a bit smaller, it is more compact, so more lightweight also, and it has a one-sided cable entry, so that is all speaking for closed-back headphones, and also it has already angled transducers. And the 600 series already sounds open, a little bit intimate, and if it were closed down, then it would go into your head basically. So all these points spoke for using this chassis. But we knew, of course, that this comes originally from a slightly cheaper product line. So what we did is we introduced stainless steel sliders, and we introduced also steel ear cups. So in the end, we really tried our best to bring up the value of the headphone as well, not only the sound. It's $349, so it's a little bit lower position than the original HD600, and I think that makes it also a really good just value price proposition.
Another exhibitor I caught one day before the show opened properly was Dynaudio. And the Danes had 4 new loudspeaker models to show off, but only at the show were they talking about pricing. And I gotta say, I gave them a bit of a hard time about this, urging them to announce all details, including pricing, before the show. Because as you will see in this video, it still gets a bit muddled, the pricing that is. And I think the new turntable will sell for around 2,000 euros, but I'm not 100% sure on that.
So that's just a hi from Dynaudio in Munich. One of our spotlight products is, of course, the new Contour Legacy, which is the next model in our heritage collection. So you will see some similarities to the Contour 1.8 from back in the days, but it's just filled with top-notch, absolute modern drivers and a very, very nice and very good crossover in American walnut, and it's again a limited model. It's limited to 1,000 pairs worldwide. The next nice thing at the Dynaudio booth is an active version of our flagship Confidence 20. So you see 2 new colors. It's a black one and a white one, which we call Snow and Space. You got all the electronics within the stand. It's, of course, Pascal amplifiers, the same that we use in our Pro products. It's 400 watts for the woofer and another 100 watts for the tweeter. And you've got some nice DSP features on the back that you then just can select, like a room positioning, tilt filter, brightness, darkness EQ, and you can then hook them up digital or analog to your preamplifier or streamer. That one is going to be at 20,000 euros retail.
And the Contour?
12,000. You're just next to the next one, so that is the Contour 20i in black edition, and it's a special edition of the already existing Contour 20i, and it features our best tweeter, the Isotar 3, an improved woofer, and a very, very nice improved crossover as well at a price point of 7,000 euros. And then, yes, you're right, that's a very special one. So that's a joint venture with a very high-grade Japanese furniture company and designers. They called Karimoko, and you can actually, it's like a brand cooperation that takes place in like the really high-grade furniture world. So you can see that design and the craftsmanship itself is something very, very special and very unique. So you can see reference flats in Japan that are like fully done in the same design with the same nice wooden appeal and that high grade of craftsmanship.
I know some people in my audience are going to ask me about the protruding edges and how they play with edge diffraction, so here.
Yeah, but they are displayed here in a hi-fi context, but maybe they won't be used in that hi-fi context. Okay. So that is of course really like being pushed into a design domain. And that's just perfectly fine. So if you see that in that right environment, it totally makes sense. So in addition to our Focus wireless speakers that you, of course, know, yep, we will have, and we are the only ones to have a cooperation with them, our own turntable made by Torrance. And you can actually, as you remember, there are 4 finishes on the Focus. So we have black, white, blonde wood, and walnut. So you can get exact the same color on the turntable. That turntable features a digital out that you can actually directly hook up to that speakers, wired, optical. And it also features Bluetooth aptX HD. So if you want to, you can like fully set up your turntable here and your speakers there without any restrictions. In the end, it's of course compatible with a lot of other devices, but that's our main purpose, to have like it on this display here to be something complete.
After almost 15 years of doing this, I know that the music played at hi-fi shows isn't my bag, and I've kind of resigned myself to thinking that it might never be. So making sure that I got my daily fix of music that I like in Munich was Roon, who is the sponsor of this video. And I used Roon Arc to stream music from my Nucleus One server, which is over here, so it's in Berlin, to my phone whilst I was in Munich. So traveling to and from the show was a good time to tune in and drop out. And no, I wasn't ignoring Terry Ellis. He and I had breakfast every morning, and I think I really plugged my headphones in to give him a break. And I gotta say, walking through Munich city centre listening to Momus' Voyager and the new Brian Eno compilation was an absolute joy when set against the backdrop of hi-fi show music. Talking of portable audio, I visited the FiiO booth to see what its CP13 cassette Walkman actually felt like in the hand. And the answer is, yeah, pretty substantial, pretty solid. I was very surprised. However, the Chinese company's forthcoming fully automatic turntable also caught my eye, and just like the HiFi Rose product, it isn't finished yet, but I thought I would talk to them about it nevertheless.
This is our first turntable. The model name is TT13. The cartridge is Audio Technical 3600L, and it's bell driver, 6 LED lights, and it has RCA output and has Bluetooth function, and it also has remote control. The final price, we don't have final price now, but maybe it's about $300. And this is not the final version. The final version, we have 6 buttons here. We add 1 more button here to change the speed.
One product that is definitely finished and already shipping is Musical Fidelity's A1 integrated amplifier. And in fact, I think it was actually launched at Munich, the show, last year. So I decided to take a closer look because if my schedule allows, I'll be getting one in for review later this year. However, given that it's a Class A design and it runs hot, it might be best that I wait until the winter.
So welcome to Munich 2024 at the Musical Fidelity stand. This here is the A1 integrated amplifier, which is a classic design that was originally designed in 1984, 1985 by Tim de Parravicini for Anthony Michelson of Musical Fidelity. This is kind of a revamped version where we try to keep the electronics and the circuit board one touch, but still give it a modern edge. So we have a toroidal double wound transformer. We have a larger chassis compared to the original, so it's been lengthened a little bit to allow a larger heat sink. It's 25 watts per channel, Class A amplification, and people who have heard it are immensely impressed. So it still has the magic that it originally had when it was introduced back in the day, and retains the classic look. The buttons in the front are of plastic, not because we wanted to cut corners, but so you don't hurt yourself, because this unit here has now a surface temperature of roughly 60 degrees Celsius, and you don't want to have that transferred to the buttons and the knobs. 1,600 euros, roughly, depending on the market.
Now, I really felt for Arcam this year as its new flagship super integrated amplifier didn't show up on the show floor until Saturday because it got caught in German customs. But my repeated return visits paid off because the large front panel touchscreen really is a sight to behold. It is massive. Now, it's not a touchscreen, but I've yet to be persuaded that touch controls aren't an inconvenience when the product sits low in a hi-fi rack. Now, the SA45 is a Class G design and it offers Dirac live room compensation, and that, I think, sees it pull up alongside the M33 from NAD in terms of feature set and pricing. But if and when I get an Arcam unit in for review, it won't be until November, and I won't have a side-by-side comparison with the M33 because it would be unrealistic of me and you to expect NAD to send me another M33 just to put it up against the Arcam.
My name's James, I'm a product manager for Arcam, and at Munich show this week we've introduced 3 new products, but the one we really want to talk about is our new flagship, the SA45, which has an 8.8-inch bonded display on the front, so it's really clear and easy to see from the comfort of your sofa. We've also put in a multi-channel DAC, and we've got the ability to do Dirac live processing as well through 2 subwoofers as well as the left and right channels, and that's running fully balanced as well with balanced inputs and balanced outputs, so we're going to get really high signal and a vanishingly low noise floor. And that all runs with our Class G amplification, which gives you loads and loads of usable grunt. It's going to give you 180 watts into an 8 ohm loudspeaker, or best part 300 watts into a 4 ohm loudspeaker. And in the convenience factors, we wanted to make this a product that's easy to use for the whole family. So we've got HDMI eARC, we've got Bluetooth, we've got Spotify Connect, Tidal Connect, and it'll be Roon ready at launch. So all of those inputs are auto switching, so you probably don't even need to pick up our own remote control or our own app to use the product. So the TFT display is bonded directly to the glass with no air gap between it at all. So we don't get any ghosting, we don't lose the contrast that you get from these TFT displays, which are it's the same kind of technology that you have in the display of your laptop, for example. So the stream platform is our own. It's a brand new development. It's not an evolution of something we've done before. And we've had to do that so that we can not just deliver much, much higher sample rates and bit rates and so on, but also actually so we can drive the display itself. It has the GPU built into that streaming engine, which means when you start playing a track from Tidal Connect, for example, the album art appears on display instantly without any lag. So the SA45 is going to be €5,000, and then we've got a smaller version, the SA35, which will be €3,500. So the ST25, SA35, those will be available in September, and the SA45 will come in October.
And lastly, my best in show. Now, I don't mean best in show in terms of sound quality. Munich is far too noisy to listen to anything properly, and 99% of all music choices set me adrift. Besides, Quad's Reborn 33 and 303 pre-power combo was only on static display. But look at it, just look at it.
So we've got the new Quad 33 preamplifier and 303 power amplifier configuration, which is a reintroduction of the classic Quad system from the late 60s, 1967 I think. And it's a complete new design based on all the original principles, and the project was actually led by two guys who've worked for Quad. One has worked for Quad for 40 years, one has worked for Quad for over 35 years, and an electronics engineer has worked for Quad since 1991. So we follow as many of the original principles as original 303, including the triples output stage, and the 33 is a fully analog preamplifier, but it's got a new digital display, it's got a new motorized volume control, which is pretty cool, as you can see, and it's got the original tilt, the original pan controls, and pretty much everything that was on the original 303 we've tried to keep, but we've innovated as we can with over 50 years of learning in terms of electronics design. So with the new transformer designs and all the innovations we've managed to add, the original power output was 45 watts per channel. Let's just say we're pushing it a little bit. The original 303 is fantastic for comfortable listening, as you say. You know, it's not a high power, massive output amplifier. But the way we've managed to improve design of things, we've managed to, there's a little bit more to it. So at the end of Q3, mid-autumn, this will be in stores and readily available. So it's in the final stages now, and it's well on its way. Well, ballpark is hard to say at this minute, there's a lot to confirm. However, the original, we discussed yesterday, I did some research on it, the original 1967, this was £48, I believe, and this was £55. Bank of England inflation calculator puts that about, I think, about 900 quid, about 700 quid. Now, there's a lot changed, there's a lot more substance to the product, so they're going to be a little bit higher than that, but still very affordable.
Will these sound better than the originals?
Yes, yeah, they will. The originals are close to our heart. Now, don't get it wrong, we still service Quad 303s and 33s every day of the week in our service office in the UK. Still the same guys for 40 years, 35 years, 30 years history. So we know what they are, what they do, and how they sound, and we love them. However, there's a lot of innovation happened since the original, so we know how to make things sound better. And they're just going to be all round, just a little bit more fun.
So that's all the gear that I saw in Munich this year. But what about the other product, you ask? Well, if it's not in this video, I didn't see it, because I spent the rest of my time in closed door meetings, and there's something wild coming very soon, and also hanging out with Twittering Machines' Michael Livornia, whom I'd not seen for 6 years. And of course, I wouldn't miss coffee at Man vs. Machine and record shopping at Optimal, which is just round the corner. And for those wondering why my logo was on the show wristbands, it's advertising that I paid for. So that alone should tell you how much I value Munich High-End. Now, the Stephen Wilson video will come next week, and in that video I'll offer up some thoughts on his Dolby Atmos demo. So please stay tuned for that. But if you liked this video, you know what to do by now, and drop us a schnitzel in the comment section below to let us know that you watched to the very end, and thank you ever so much for watching.